guys, I'm back with another tutorial. Today I'm going to be drawing this lion in charcoal and mixed media. If you want to follow along with me, these are the materials that you're going to need. I'm working on Bristol Board. I prefer the vellum finish. Graphite pencils, just for your basic blocking and sketching. Pan Pastel in black, or you can create charcoal dust with sandpaper. You could probably also do the same with a black pastel. Some kind of applicator. I use a range of synthetic brushes in different sizes and shapes, and also the Sofft tool sponge applicator that's specifically made for the Pan Pastel. You're also going to need some erasers. I use the Faber Castel eraser pencil and the Tombow mono eraser. These are very small. You're going to want something that you can actually draw with, so something quite small, precision type eraser. For this particular drawing, I used Krylon workable fixative, several layers of this just to help build up some rich blacks. Carbon pencil or charcoal pencils, you can use either. I use both. Medium and soft seem to work the best. And white charcoal for the brightest highlights. I use Generals for all of my charcoal and my carbon. I use Generals brand. And just some scrap paper or some paper towels to blot off excess pigment and have a bit more control. Okay. So I'm going to start blocking in with the craft brushes and some Pan Pastel. I'm working on the darkest parts of the muzzle and then pulling that pigment out for the lighter sections. You can see I'm using a lot of different sizes of brushes, a lot of flat brushes, because that really will help me create the fur texture in this very first layer. And again, I apologize for the shadows and some of the video quality here, same issue as last time, but hopefully we'll have that resolved for the next video. So I'm relying heavily on this chiseled craft brush in order to create most of the texture and the lines for the hair. Paying close attention to my reference photo and just making sure that I'm following the direction of the hair, the length of the hair, where it's curling and where it's straight, because that's all very important to just achieving realism in your final result. Starting to darken the background, especially around the muzzle. I'm going to switch to the Sofft tool here, the sponge applicator, just because I can get much more pigment on it. And then I'll start to blend out with the brushes after that. Pulling out highlights with the eraser. This is such a great tool. If you don't have one, I highly recommend them. And then I'm going to blend back those lines. Anywhere you have harsh lines that you've either drawn in with the charcoal pencil or with the eraser, you can always go back over that lightly with your brush and soften that up however much you need to. As I am erasing and applying pigment, I'm getting a lot of dust, a lot of excess pigment, and bits of eraser on the page. And you'll see that kind of tan wide brush that I'm using just to brush everything off. I will also use that just to overall blend everything back if I feel like my lines are too harsh. So that's also a great tool to have on hand. Now you can see that I'm taking some time to really draw in the fur texture with the eraser. It's really important at this stage that I achieve all of these lighter values, because I know that I'm going to want to use the fixative later on to build up the darker darks. If I don't pull these now, if I were to just leave those sort of medium gray tones, put the fixative over top, and then try to go back, I would never be able to erase out as light as I can at this stage. So I'm being very careful and getting a lot of details in early. Again, so sorry about that video quality. Just keep refining, adding shadows with the brushes. Sometimes I will pull pigment from the darker areas. And now I'm going to come in with my darkest darks, and those are going to be created with the charcoal pencil. That's the orange that you see. And you will also see the carbon pencil later. That's the black barrel. And at this stage you can kind of see how much darker I'm getting in the background. I have gone ahead and added that layer of the Krylon workable fixative, let it thoroughly dry, and then come back over, and you can see how much darker those shadows are getting. Defining the eye. I'm using some white charcoal for the brightest whites. I am alternating between the darker values and then layering in the white charcoal and then pulling out with the eraser, and just to continually alternate, draw those lines, push them back, draw them, push them back, pulling out the highlights. That's really how you create the illusion of fur and just the illusion of depth and softness. You just continually redefine and soften until you get it the way you want it. And of course, again, just paying attention to your reference photo and the texture of the fur that you're trying to replicate. Making some very, very tiny strokes for the fur around the nose and the muzzle. Adding some more shadows with that chiseled brush, some more definition to the shadow in the fur with the pencil. And I really liked those little indications of scars on the nose as well. I really wanted to be sure to include that. Just adds so much character. Working with the carbon pencil now. Carbon actually is a bit of a cooler black, whereas I find that charcoal is a bit warmer. So you can play around with the two and decide which is going to work best in which sections of your own drawing, if you prefer to use them together or you just prefer one over the other. I'm just continuing to layer the darks and the lights, as I said before. I'm going to start drawing in more defined fur texture with the white charcoal, and then I'll be coming back through with brushes just to blend out wherever I need to soften. Final layer here, so everything's going to be a bit more defined. These are just the brightest whites in this final drawing. You see the details going in, the whiskers, and every layer you add just adds that much more depth. Just continuing to refine those details. I'm keeping the outside edges a bit looser, a bit less defined. I really liked that kind of graphic quality with the line work showing through. Okay, so that is the final drawing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. I am working on a weekly video schedule. So if you have any ideas for videos, if there's anything you would like to know about, definitely get in touch. Leave me a comment below. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook to get a sneak peek and see what I'm working on. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.